Hi, my name is Dorothy Dye. I grew up here in Mendota, and today I'm in the History Museum of our little Mendota here. We started this in the old school building here, and we're trying to preserve as much of our history as we can of Mendota before all of the old people are gone. So I'm trying to get all of as much stuff together as I can. So he is here today and asking me about Texas Jack Vermillion, and I do know that he was born over in Russell County, and he's buried here in Mendota. But in all of the time that I grew up here, I never had heard the story until I went away, and then I came back about 6 years ago. And at that time, people started asking me about him, and I started doing a little research. And I went up on the cemetery hill, and sure enough, I found where he was buried there. But more than likely, my father may have or may not have dug his grave, because my father was born in 1883, and he had dug most of the graves on top of that hillside all by himself. And he used to tell us children all about the person or who he was digging the grave for. So.
Okay, well, I'll tell you something. This is Ernie Benko with ARC Television. We're here in Mendota, celebrating Mendota and the history here. And we'll get into the history of Mendota here shortly. But is my understanding again is that Texas Jack Vermillion was born in Russell County, and he was in the Civil War. After the Civil War, he came back to Russell County, and then he went out west, got married, had 2 kids. He was out doing something, and the wife and kids died of something like going on now, some kind of virus or flu or something. He ended up in Dodge City, a deputy for Wyatt Earp. His best friend was Doc Holliday, and when they went to Tombstone, Texas Jack went with them. Also, in the movie Tombstone, they're talking to people out in the sidewalk, not sidewalk, in the middle of the road, introducing each other, and they introduced him as Texas Jack Vermillion. He was a deputy for Wyatt Earp in Tombstone. And my understanding, he was at the gunfight at OK Corral. After that, he joined up with the sheriff and the bunch he had, and the sheriff was no longer the sheriff after that, because he went after the gang called the Cowboys.
There.
And the Cowboys, I always thought maybe 25 or 35 people on the Cowboys, but apparently there was between 200 and 300 people in the Cowboys. Texas Jack, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, and his other friends and associates went after the Cowboys. And after they killed so many of them, my understanding, the territory of Arizona put a bounty on Wyatt Earp, Texas Jack, Doc Holliday, and I'm not sure who else. Wyatt Earp went to California. He's involved in the first Western movies. Texas Jack went to Alaska, and he was up there. He's involved in all sorts of crazy things up there. And then he moved back to Mendota, and he was a circuit preacher. One of the places that it's noted that he preached at was Big Stone, but he preached all around. And Doc Holliday came to Big Stone Gap to visit him before he died. And then after he died, he sent him a chest of stuff. And I understand the chest was in your house.
I'm not sure if it was that one, but as legend would have it, we were told never to go into the attic because there was a trunk that was underneath an old window up there. And as children, we were never allowed to go and look at that old trunk, not even to touch it. And there was treasure in it, is what we were told. But years later, as we got older and Daddy had passed, we opened it and it really wasn't anything in it at all. So I'm not sure if that was the treasure chest or not, if it was just legend. So.
Well, is any of that anything that you've heard about Texas Jack?
I've heard, and I've heard also that he used to say, if they asked him how he learned to shoot, he said, "I'm from Virginia."
Yeah.
So everybody in Virginia knew how to shoot. So that's pretty much that.
Okay. Well, now tell us about Mendota.
Mendota is a little town nestled between the mountains of here and the river, and I grew up here. I love Mendota. There's no other place on earth like it. And at one time, you never had to go out of Mendota to purchase or to buy anything. Everything was here. And as the years have gone down, it's gone down to where 6 years ago you couldn't even buy a bottle of water here. And now it is beginning to come back. We can buy water here. We've got a trail started. We have our museum here now. And we are in the process of reinventing this old school building here. They're going to get it ready to put a new roof on, and we're getting a new heating and air conditioning here. So it's going to come back to life. So.
And then you've had some great concerts here too, because I videotaped some.
Oh yes, and we'll have more as we get more renovation done, when people can come and it be nice and cool and heated, So.
And now tell us how Mendota got its name.
From the bend in the river, and at one time we had I want to say a reservation, but it was more of a campground of our Indian ancestries here. And it is a horseshoe, and the river bends right around where they camped. So I'm sure that's where it came from.
And that was the Cherokee, and what was the other tribe?
There was a Cherokee and Shawnee.
And they lived together in the same area.
As far as I know.
Then Mendota was pretty important during the railroad days, right?
It is. In fact, there was a sawmill very close to where the railroad was. And it makes perfectly good sense, because where the railroad station was, there was a sawmill. There was a boarding house where they would drive cattle across the mountain and bring it into there, and they'd load it on. People had to have a place to stay. So Mendota had doctors, it had dentists, it had hotel, it had everything at one time here. So
they claim that when the train come through here, they had passenger train going into Bristol, and my mother, she came from across the mountain over there. But anyhow, they said that these people come over here, ride the horses across that mountain over here, and leave them here and go to Bristol. They had a whiskey store in Bristol at that time, and they'd get drunk on the way back, and they'd ride up and down through on their horses. They'd come back and shoot the pistols in there like the cowboys did.
Yeah.
That's what some of the old timers said.
Oh yeah, it was part of it.
Well, now, my understanding, I may be wrong about this, but this railroad through here was pretty important to Big Stone.
It did.
Because Big Stone was going to be the Pittsburgh of the South. They had coal, they had limestone, they had everything to make steel. That's why it's called the Pittsburgh of the South. And this is going to be one of the main rails going in and out.
It never materialized, did it?
Do what?
I say, I guess this never materialized, did it?
Well, no, it didn't. They found the iron ore in the northern state, and it was like
Pennsylvania and up in that area.
it wasn't Pennsylvania, somewhere up there, but they were like 90-some% iron ore, so they didn't need it down here.
See, we had a mine here, but we mined silicon, and they would bring it down off the mountain, right down below here. And in the wintertime, you can still see where the little carts went up and down the mountainside in the summer. And they'd dump it right into the cars on the railroad, and they'd take it out of here. So.
Yeah, they claimed that they had a railroad up through there. I mean, 2 different lanes, and the empty car would pull the full car.
Yeah.
The full car would pull the empty car back up there. And then they would load it, and they'd turn it loose whenever. I don't know how they figured it when they unloaded it.
Yeah.
My dad said that he rode that thing up to the top there one time, and he got off and looked down there, and it had a clevis on there with where the cable went in, and it had a pin in it, and that pin was just barely halfway there.
Yeah.
And he said if he had come loose, that thing went down that mountain like a racehorse, and probably killed him. But
But now tell us who you are and who your dad was.
my name's Don Lewis, and his
Don
name
Lewis.
was Felix Lewis.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now, what relation are you to Ray Lewis?
That's my brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he died just, buried just 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. What's your name?
I was Dottie Millard. I was a Millard. I'm a Di now.
You don't remember me, do you?
I do. You look familiar, but I you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, now, where you lived at?
Now, we lived all up and down the river there. My dad was sharecropper, but now I live over where Benham's Road and Nordyke splits off there. I just live right there, second house up going toward Bristol from there. But I've been in North Carolina for 54 years, so I lost track.
See, I went to Florida for 50-some years and came home. Yeah.
Yeah, you had a whole bunch of sisters, didn't you?
Yeah.
Ann and Dottie and,
Well, I'm Dottie.
Dottie.
Ann and Eva and Edith.
yeah.
And Sonny. Sonny was my brother.
Yeah, and what's your oldest brother that was staying
John.
there?
John. John Eugene.
Yeah, I remember he used to come on leave and had a Cadillac car and
Yeah.
drive around here a lot in that, so
He's drunk all the time, too.
GIS did that.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to tell us?
No, I think that's about it. Come out to see us in Mendota.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. But I still keep going.
Two sisters and a brother that's in their early 70s and 60s.
Well, I'm the only one left in our family now, but my brother and I had a race, and he turned 84 last year, November, and I lost him in December. He was only sick about 2 weeks, and just like that. And he'd swear down, I'm going to outlive you, sister. I have just really missed him since then.
There was 10 of us, 6 boys and 4 girls. Well, all the girls are still living, and then there's only 2 boys left.
Well, we almost went in concession as we were born, you know, but then a couple months, I don't know how long the Lord has me here, so.
You won't go until he's through with you. Till he's with 2 of your purposes fulfilled.
I said, if that's the case, then I'm gonna be around till 200, I'm gonna be Methuselah. Because I keep finding stuff to do and to do, and to get this old building renovated and bring it back to life. He's been working on that hard on that. But it's a county building, and that makes it hard, because you gotta go through the county.
Yeah, there's always something to do with politics.
No matter how hard you try.